John DeSando.
Classics, let's go to the movies and share some popcorn, soda pop with our friends. Turn off our cell phones and get away. Night or day, it's John DeSando on the radio. We'll watch the credits from up high and low. Cinema Classics on air.
Cinema Classics is produced and hosted by John DeSando. Listen to shows Thursdays at 8:01 p.m. on WCBE 90.5 FM. And listen to shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Mindy Mcfann.
And this is Cinema Classics.
Yes, sir.
And these are traumatizing times.
To many people.
You don't have to go to war to have PTSD anymore in our society,
No.
given the political warfare that's going on.
Absolutely.
Even considering right in the Oval Office itself.
Yes.
We've had it.
And we've just begun.
We have. So we have chosen a little bit of light fare for today called My Dead Friend Zoe.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Mindy, set that up for me, please.
Well, I didn't know what to expect. I guess because in the past I've seen movies kind of with this premise, and I thought it was going to be funny. I did not know anything. I didn't read anything about it before I went, and it's a very borderline. I guess it's a propaganda kind of movie. When you think about it, it's about a charity is behind it, trying to raise money for vets with PTSD, and so the story is about veterans with PTSD.
Now, do you have any experience with this at all?
Yes.
How?
I have a family member who has CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which means you have trauma from multiple areas.
Wow. Not related to your service? Or
Not related to service, no.
Okay.
No,
But he or she was in service?
No.
No. Oh,
No.
okay. So.
not in the service.
Well, now that's news for me.
Yeah, yeah.
We so often associate it with just service.
That's kind of an old trope,
Uh-huh.
because that's where it was first discovered. But I work in a trauma-informed school, and so I'm dealing with children with PTSD daily.
Oh my gosh! Well, as we get into our podcast, which is Double Take, we might want to talk about, if you don't mind, like
Sure.
to share some of
Sure.
your experiences. So once again, I've chosen well. I
Mm-hmm.
know somebody. I've had no service. I certainly have seen a little bit of PTSD. But you're right. When I think about it, one could be in a car accident and have PTSD.
Sure.
There's so many other ways in which to have it. In this story, we have a young woman named Merritt who has returned from 8 years of service.
Yes.
And what's her PTSD?
Well, first of all, she was in the service for 8 years, but you don't know at the beginning. You know she is seeing her best friend, although her best friend has passed away by this point, but she sees her everywhere and she goes everywhere with her, and we don't know how she died. The presumption is she died in the military.
Correct.
And they kind of set it up because they're on watch. During the flashbacks, there is the two of them on watch, and then there's sometimes when they're in like a Humvee and you're assuming she dies in some kind of military-related thing.
And in fact, they very nicely planned a little bit of an idea about a sniper.
Yes, yes.
And I think there's one point where she goes and she raises her hands like this.
Yeah.
And as if she were accepting
Yes,
the sniper.
yes.
And yeah, so I thought there's a little bit of drama. Yeah, you know, you're alluding to something that I think is very interesting about this film. It's listed as a dark comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And there are comedic moments.
Yes, but they're slight,
Yeah.
at least to me.
Yeah.
I didn't, I mean, their friendship is, I guess, light.
Well, Zoe, who is dead but appearing only to Merritt,
Yes.
has a lot of snarky comments.
Yes, I mean, they're funny girl talk.
Yeah.
You know, they're buddies and friends in the military, and Zoe has a very large personality, but there's a kind of a conflict between them because Zoe comes from a poor world and her friend is more affluent. So she's more privileged in what she can do after she leaves the military. And Zoe's a little resentful of that because she's going back to nothing.
Right, and in fact, her friend Merritt tries to I think, discourage her from re-upping.
Yes.
And,
Well, because to her, because she has options, she's going to college.
yeah,
So she's like, why would you re-up? I mean, we've been in here long enough.
yes, right, yeah.
Go on to the rest of your life. And she, because she didn't come from that kind of background, she doesn't empathize, not because she's unkind, but she doesn't understand what it's like to not have anything or not have anybody to go back to.
Yeah, that's a very poignant part of that film for me.
Absolutely.
Is that forces you to think about, well, what does somebody do who has nothing?
Right,
Nothing to go to.
right.
And you've well said it, Merritt does have something to go to. In fact, although her mother is not a big part of her life, I think she's a part of her life, but a big part of her life is her grandpa.
Yeah. I mean, both of them are a support system, whether she agrees with her mother or finds her mother annoying or whatever,
Right.
like every other child on earth. She has a mother who has got a good job and working, and she has a grandfather and had a grandmother till recently. They have a lake house, you know, so they have property in the family. I mean, all those things that people who have things take for granted.
Yeah, this is set in Oregon, and boy, that lake house is some lake house.
Yes, it is.
It's a beauty. And grandpa, I think it had been in the family.
Yes,
And
yes. He bought it.
he
Yeah.
bought it. And if you want to see an actor, I hope we don't undervalue Ed Harris.
I love him.
Wow, is he good in this?
He's good in everything. I just
Oh.
love him.
I mean, every word
Mm-hmm.
is punctuated with gravity, and at the same time, he's still rebellious.
Yes.
And this, now in his case, his rehab comes from, am I correct, from Alzheimer's or early Alzheimer's?
Yeah, he gets diagnosed and the mother wants the daughter to come and sell the lake house and put him in a home.
Yeah.
He served in Vietnam,
Yes.
so that was what motivated her to go in the service.
Yeah.
But like, you know, my experience with my father in World War II, yeah, it was rough. We just sucked it up. And I mean, I know my father had PTSD because I want to say, my gosh, he must have been 60 maybe, and he went camping with my sisters and never before seen anything. He tried to get in a tent and the smell of the canvas flipped him out so bad he had to sleep in the car all night.
My goodness. Well, you're reminding me that my dad was in World War II as well,
Mm-hmm.
and he served in the medical corps,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing. Never talked about the experience. I see one shot of him mashed-like in front of a tent
Yep.
with a big cross on it, and we never thought to force it out of him. I don't think he didn't show any signs
Right.
of the PTSD.
That's the only time I would have recognized it in my father.
Yeah.
Because he always told us, oh, it wasn't so bad. We had free cigarettes and free beer. And that's
Well, he would have had your sense of
obvious.
humor.
Well, and he would tell me stories when I was a kid that I didn't understand how traumatic that must have been, because he was in the Philippines, and he would tell us how the Japanese soldier they would sneak into their tents at night and tie their boots together and then leave, so when they wake up they would know they had been there. And I thought that was a funny story as a child, and then I grew up and I went, wow, would that freak you out?
Well, you can imagine my dad, what he had seen in the service that he did in the medical corps.
Sure.
I can't even begin to think
No,
of what he must have.
no.
And I mean, the only thing I can think of is did it have contributed at all to the fact that he died at 49?
Could well have.
Yeah,
I mean,
you love
trauma's,
internal problems, but
I mean, we've just found out what trauma does to you.
yeah.
Just finding out.
Yeah. So now in this film, and again we're talking about My Dead Friend Zoe. I love the title.
Mm-hmm.
It's a kind of a little bit of a macabre title.
Yes.
Itself, My
Yeah.
Dead Friend Zoe, and our protagonist is played by Sunika Martin Green, who
Mhm.
apparently has done some TV work,
Yes.
and she's impressive.
Yeah, she did a great job. A
Uh,
real good job.
yeah. In fact, the two of them together have a little bit of the screwball comedy about them.
Yes, absolutely. Another format? Absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely.
And they're riding in their Humvee and trading comments.
Yeah, and singing like
Yeah.
we do in cars, you know, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
making the best of it. And for somebody who comes presumably from wretched poverty, there is something attractive about stability. So that for her,
For Zoe.
yes, the aberrant nature of it was on some level comforting.
Yeah.
And Merritt throws that out at her at one point, that you like having, knowing where your meals are coming from and all of that. And stability is something you don't have when you're poor.
What about the relationship between Merritt and her grandpa? It strikes me that there are some themes here that are about rehab. And
Yes, I mean, I'm sure he had some PTSD.
he didn't show it in the film, right? I mean,
Yeah, well, anger is a big part of PTSD, and he was an angry bugger. I imagine that his anger was disturbing to his wife, his anger was disturbing to his daughter, but granddaughters are more forgiving. So I presume she became his little friend because she judged him less than the other people would. So I think that probably made them have a special bond, and then she went into the service.
and she went because of him.
Yes, absolutely.
He
She
inspired
admired him
her.
so much. But,
She didn't go to college at that point.
right. She went after
It's
she
a
came
big
out.
deal then
Yeah.
for her to go in there.
Yeah.
But I love their description, and how many times have those of us and our listeners been to a parade of some sort, or a 4th of July celebration, where they sing songs, in this case they sing the anthems for the different services.
Yes.
I
Yes.
thought that was really lovely
Yes.
description.
Well, I mean, it's nice to say thank you to people who have devastated their lives on such a degree, and the people around them. I mean, it's not just the person who serves that does,
Yeah,
has to deal with it.
yeah. And it reminds me that there was a time, and certainly when I was growing up, where we had an awful lot of affection for service people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was shown in the 4th of July celebrations, and it was a very happy time, until we get to somewhere around Vietnam.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
boy, we were not nice
No.
to service people who came back.
Yeah, I that's kind of before my time. I don't remember
Yeah.
that, but I
mean,
know
it's the truth.
they
Yeah.
were spit on and
Yes, they
terrible
were.
things happened.
Yeah.
And that I think people forget the word draft. It's not like they showed up voluntarily. I mean,
You're right. Oh, Mindy Mcfann, we're just starting. I thought I have a couple of names of films that have PTSD in them that we talk about, and I'd like to hear about your experience teaching young people. So what do you suggest about My Dead Friend Zoe? What to our audience would you say?
I think everybody patriotically should go see this, especially when we are just within the last few weeks treating veterans so horrifically. Go, because you got to remember. You have to remember what these people have done.
Yep. And our podcast is called Double Take. You have to go to WCBE.org, and you have to go to the podcast experience and then hear more about what we have to say.
Absolutely.
I'm John DeSando.
Cinema, 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 cinema. Classics, let's go to the movies and share some popcorn, soda pop with